Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. It is Tuesday, September 27th. I'm Frank Granito. I'm joined in studio by my co-host Donald Eng. Don, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. It's my little bit of rain last night. My well is very grateful, so we go onward.
I got a feeling that this will not be the last time your well is saying thank you. We could be staring down some rain for the next few days, which could make some of the upcoming matches across the board in FCX Sports pretty interesting. We'll have some top of the division teams battling off this week. We're a quarter way through the season now, Don. Teams are really starting to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it's time for the good teams now to really put the pedal down and to start to get together and pull away. We really can't say it's early in the season anymore. We really can't say the teams are a work in progress anymore. We're far enough into the season that we're starting to get a sense of what these teams are actually going to be this year.
We were at Kennedy Stadium last night. We got to see a really cool game. It was between Norwalk and Bridgeport Central, and I think it was the first time we've traveled to Kennedy, first time we got to see Central soccer. They played fast, they played aggressive, it was high intensity, but I tell you what, this was a Norwalk team people thought were a year away. They looked really good and very competitive, like they could make a run here.
They really did, and watching that game, I was thinking to myself, where did this Central team come from? Because they had lost badly in some of their previous few games, like by 6-1 scores like that, but they're flying up and down the field or the pitch. Sorry about that, and making plays. They played an aggressive game. It was a lot of fun to watch.
We'll have highlights from that game as well as the rest of the FCX soccer games wrap up in the second block of this show. But Don, let's start with field hockey. And why don't you tell us about some of the games that we saw on Thursday afternoon? Yeah,
starting on Thursday, it was Staples 4-0 over West Hill. McMahon 2-1 beating Danbury. Ward 5, Stamford 1 in field hockey.
Staples is sitting at 6-0 right now. They are, I don't want to say quietly, but almost flying a little under the radar with Darien also being 6-0 and really blowing out teams.
Yeah, it's after last year in particular, it seems like every championship conversation begins and ends with Darien, but the Staples team off to a great start, playing very well.
Speaking of Darien, we got to see them live in action on Friday afternoon when they hosted the New Canaan Rams in the battle for exit 37. Darien came out on top of that one by a final score of 3-1. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that game.
Thrown towards the front of the net. Gaeta kicked it away once. Standing there on the doorstep was Lowe trying to put it in. Shot coming! And it is a good goal. Hesitation for a second from the referee.
More likely it gets that they are going to convert one of them.
And there it is right there on cue. How not letting this one go through. Took the pass, big windup, hits the low shot to the bottom left corner. 2-0 in favor of the Wave. Looks to the middle. Giannunzio there, shot came up, blocked one, second effort, and it is a good goal.
A little bit more of a flow. Even just in this season, Darien has one more game under their belt. That's one more game worth of reps and passing.
Give and go with Barron. She's out in front. Kick save there once. Second shot, and she buries it upstairs. Cameron Dayton with it. Comes up. Wind up. Mitchell. Shot. Fire. Blocked away, and the rebound's knocked away. Well done. It was Campbell Mathias knocking that one clean out of the air. That will do it here as the Wave are going to come out on top with a 3-1 victory over their rival New Canaan Rams.
And we were just talking there off the air. Eric said it best. Of all the rules, you'd think there would be high sticking incorporated in field hockey. Yeah. An amazing play from Campbell Mathias. Darien just continues to reload, and the Wave are playing some of the best field hockey in the entire conference right now.
Yeah, it's hard to see anyone beating them. Maybe Staples, but it just seems like that they have a gear that other teams just don't, and that's that's the impression you get watching them play New Canaan, a very good team. Staples 3-1, never really challenged, I thought.
No, it was. You're right. They were up 2-0 at the end of the half. New Canaan didn't apply much pressure. Darien came out, scored early on in the second half, and AJ Simonowski was on the call with me. We talked about it. There was a 15-minute window down the stretch that you really felt New Canaan got themselves into the game and started to apply pressure. But by that point in time, it was just too late for the Rams to come back.
Right, and you think to yourself, certainly it's difficult and it's risky, but someone is going to have to just take the game to this Darien Wave team. You can't kind of lie back and hope to fend them off. You're going to have to go at them. I understand you risk the counterattack and losing big that way, but the alternative doesn't seem too attractive either.
Ellery Barron, the senior captain for the Rams, scored the only goal for New Canaan. It was a key goal. It came at a good time. The Rams felt they still had a chance, but I thought that Barron was held in check by a very strong defensive unit for the Wave throughout the entire game.
Yeah, just they can just they almost can. It seems like they can almost shrink the field. There's just not a lot of space. You just can't really don't really have a lot of room to maneuver against that Darien defense.
The road does not get any easier for New Canaan. They host Staples this afternoon as they have to play the top two teams in the conference back-to-back. Darien travels to West Hill as they look to remain undefeated. Both those games taking place at 4 p.m. this afternoon. There were two other games in action on Friday. Ludlow came out on top of Ridgefield by a score of 2-0, and the previously unbeaten Norwalk Bears scored in the final 30 seconds of regulation to tie it at 4 with the Greenwich Cardinals before they fell in overtime by a score of 5-4. It's a tough first loss, Don, and it doesn't make it any easier, but I think that this is a Norwalk team who we're going to see in the semifinals of the FCX tournament. They might even shock a team.
Yeah, and they might shock a team. I don't think I would be shocked though, because Greenwich obviously one of the premier FCX teams year in and year out, and for this Norwalk team to essentially play them dead even for an entire game, it has to. Again, like we said yesterday, you hate talking moral victories because at the end of the day, the scoreboard does count. But what a confidence builder for Norwalk.
It was. And this was after they came off a huge win against New Canaan. They defeated the Rams 5-2 on Dunning Field, mind you. But again, the Bears look very impressive. They're playing strong. Don, we had even more action going on Saturday. Why don't you keep us up to date there?
Yeah, Stamford fell to North Branford 2-0. Trumbull 7, Danbury 1. West Hill shut out Bethel 5-0, and in a featured interstate game, Lakeland, New York 3, Wilton 1. That may not sound like a good thing, but Lakeland, one of the premier teams in the country.
They are a powerhouse throughout the field hockey. Throughout the nation in field hockey. Wilton was very competitive in that game. I think they were a little outmatched in the end. Lakeland Panics they do such a great job with that program. It's the Wilton's first loss on the season, but they remain unbeaten in conference play, so it really doesn't hurt their record. If we take a look, we have two more games to talk about. Yesterday in action, Ward defeated Danbury 5-0. Trumbull with another win, picking up the 2-1 victory over Ridgefield. Trumbull's playing pretty good field hockey right now, Don.
They really are. They're kind of they're in that well, you wouldn't call it that second tier, but almost like a half step down from like the Dariens and Stapleses. But definitely showing athleticism and skill. 2-1 win over Ridgefield. Trumbull looking pretty good so far.
If we take a look at the standings and we start with the West Division in field hockey, we will see that Staples undefeated 6-0 with 12 points on the year, sitting atop there. Then it comes back down a little bit. Trumbull 4-2. They've got 8 points for you. Greenwich, it's misplaced there. Greenwich should be behind Trumbull with 6. They're 3-3. Ridgefield 2-5. Stanford 2-5. West Hill and Danbury at the bottom. But again, Staples, they're benefiting playing in that West Division, Don. That's a little not as balanced, but they're taking care of business in the games they need to.
Yeah, they really are. Off to a 6-0 start. You can only play the teams that are on your schedule, and they have been dominant so far this year in that Western Division.
If we take a look at the East, it's Darien 6-0, 12 points there. Only a point behind Norwalk, 5-0-1. That won the overtime loss last week. Wilton 4-0 in the conference. Ludlow 4-2. New Canaan 3-2 with 6 points. Remember, only the top 8 teams get in. New Canaan, a defending field hockey state champ, teetering at the bottom of the conference right now at risk of maybe missing out. Ward, 5 points, McMahon 2, St. Joe's 1, but it's clear that the top of the East is very, very balanced, very competitive, and anyone could beat anyone else on any given day. Yeah,
I mean, depending on how you look at it, you have Darien, Norwalk, and Wilton all, sort of undefeated, at least in regulation. Norwalk with the overtime loss. New Canaan at 3-2. In 5th place in the East, but then when you look at the Western Division, Staples, Greenwich, Trumbull, all with more points than the Rams. So they're going to need to go on a bit of a run here to solidify a spot in the FCX playoffs.
And this is a big game today with Staples coming to town. They're undefeated, and you might be a little outmatched, but this is a game. If you can win this game when you're not expected to, those are huge 3 points in the standings. They would settle for an overtime loss or even a tie to be able to get 1 or 2 points that at the end of the season they're maybe not expected to, or helps them out in a tiebreaker situation.
Right. When the competition is going to be this close, at least teams have 12 points, 11 points, and the difference between making the playoffs or not is going to be a point or two. You can't have those games where you don't get any points, where you make no progress toward the goals, so to speak. New Canaan needs to play well tonight.
Taking a look at some of the other games that are going on this afternoon, we mentioned Darien at West Hill and Staples at New Canaan. We've got St. Joe's playing at Norwalk tonight, and this is a really interesting one, Don, one to keep an eye on. Greenwich at Wilton. That's a game I think we could see actually in the first round of the playoffs, possibly, come the FCX this year. Yeah,
Greenwich at 3-3, sitting in second place in the Western Division. As we mentioned, Wilton 4-0 against state competition. That one lost 3-1 to nationally ranked Lakeland.
So that's going to do it for the field hockey segment of this. We'll give you those score updates tomorrow. We're going to take a quick break here on Nutmeg Sports, but we'll shift gears, take a look at some of the action in girls and boys soccer from this past weekend, including highlights from last night's game between Norwalk and Bridgeport Central, right here on the HAN Network.
1, 2, 3, Abby! You know! I want to find out how good I am. Yes, sir! If you relax, you get blown out. Let's get it done! Let's get it done!
What can you take advantage of right now?
Again, come on! I can push myself way beyond what you think.
Pressure technique. Bring it back.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
At Mex on Main, Trumbull's very own Mexican grill, we're all about fresh, fast, and friendly service. Our Main Street restaurant offers the best in traditional and non-traditional Mexican dishes, with only the best ingredients, never frozen. From authentic burritos, fajitas, quesadillas, and salads, we have something on the menu for everyone in the family. And enjoy our open salsa bar, giving you more ways to customize your meal. Stop in for lunch or dinner at 6528 Main Street, Trumbull, or find out more at mexonmain.com.
At Greenwood Physical Therapy of Bethel, individualized care, knowledgeable staff, and state-of-the-art equipment provide the best of orthopedic and sports medicine services. Our experienced therapists at Greenwood provide the highest level of knowledge and care. Greenwood accepts most kinds of insurance, and staff are there to answer your questions. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., the clinic serves the greater Danbury area and is a convenient drive from Reading. Appointments are available within 24 hours. Just call 203-917-4792 or visit greenwoodphysicaltherapy.com for more information.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan. And you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in the studio today. As we take a look now at the girls soccer scores from this past weekend, we start on Friday afternoon. New Canaan was able to beat Trinity by a score of 7-0, finally getting their offense going the way we're used to. Staples, a big 4-0 win over Central. McMahon 3-1 on top of Stanford. Darien and Danbury, Don, playing to a 0-0 tie. That was one of the better games, I thought, despite there not being any goals.
Yeah, a couple of very good teams. Obviously playing strong defense. Darien now 4-0-2. And Danbury 2-1-3. So those two teams, they don't lose games. Sometimes their defense will keep them in it. In this case, 5 ties in between the two teams. So scoreless ties, you don't think of them as being exciting, but they can be very hard fought and competitive.
And again, Danbury with those 3 ties, they're still relevant in the playoff picture. They only have 2 points or 2 wins, and you think that sort of leaves them on the outside looking in. But they're big ties, especially against a team like Darien, where you're able to steal a point. That's kept the Hatters relevant, and it's proving to this team that should they qualify for the playoffs, they will be able to play with the best teams in this conference.
Right, and at this point right now, there's kind of 9 teams going for those 8 spots. The teams have really started to separate themselves. West Hill, Ridgefield, Danbury. West Hill, Ridgefield, Staples, and Danbury are the top 4 in the Western Division. St. Joe's, Darien, Ward, New Canaan, Wilton, the top 5 in the East. Those 9 teams. Danbury with 9 points. The next team is McMahon with 6. So there's a little bit of distance in between those top teams, or at least the teams that look like they're heading towards the playoffs, and the teams behind them. So they're putting a little bit of distance between themselves and the rest of the division.
And we'll get to the games that we have played later on today, but there are some big matchups today in soccer. As we take a look at the standings here, Don, you see West Hill undefeated on the season along with Ridgefield. They're at the top of the West. West Hill has probably been playing the best soccer in the entire conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. West Hill with 6 wins, 19 points. It's like Ridgefield, a step behind them just based on games played, but certainly a lot of parity. And as we mentioned the other day, almost like the opposite of some of the others. In this case, a lot of the strength is in that Western Division.
I agree. And if you take a look at the East, this is where it gets really tight. You've got St. Joe's, who's played really well. St. Joe's has got Danbury today. That's another big game for the Hatters. Darien yet to lose on the year. Those 2 ties really the difference right now between them and the Cadets. Then Ward, New Canaan, and Wilton hold on to the 6th, 7th, and 8th place positions in the conference right now, with Danbury just a point behind them. Wilton has a huge game today playing against Ward. With a win, they would be able to surpass the Mustangs in the standings on the year.
Right. It's strange to say, as you mentioned, we crossed the quarter pole on the season, but Ward, New Canaan, Wilton, essentially all within a game of each other in that Eastern Division.
To wrap up the Friday soccer games, Ludlow tied Trumbull 1-1. West Hill came out on top of Fairfield Ward 5-3. That was a great game on Friday. Don, there were 2 games in action on Saturday. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, on Saturday we had Ridgefield beating Greenwich 2-0. West Hill 7-1 over Trinity Catholic.
And the Crusaders just struggling right now to really keep up, especially with the top tier teams in the conference.
Yeah, there's a number of Trinity of 0-6 on the year. That puts them with 0 points, tied with Central in the Western Division, Trinity in the Eastern Division. Also, Trumbull and Greenwich still looking for their first win on the season. Which
is a little shocking to me, thinking about that Greenwich team. That it's really, they've played better in years past, and even the Trumbull team. There are rebuilding years. I think we expected more out of the Eagles coming into this season.
We really did. Now, which makes that Friday score interesting. That Ludlow-Trumbull tie at 1-1. We'd kind of been saying all year, will Ludlow get it together? Tying Trumbull. You look at it. Good game for Trumbull. Ludlow continuing to struggle.
Looking at the docket for today's games, Danbury will travel to St. Joe's, as we mentioned. Greenwich will take on Staples in a little bit of a rivalry match. Stanford playing at Darien. Central at Norwalk. Wilton and Ward, as we mentioned, that should be a great one. We've got McMahon and Ridgefield. And Trumbull will play at New Canaan this afternoon. That game will be at Sachs Field. Shifting over to the boys' side now, let's start with the games from Thursday afternoon last week. Don, we had 5 of them. Why don't you tell us what they were?
Yeah, New Canaan big over Trinity 9-0. Stamford 4, McMahon 2. Trumbull beat Ludlow 2-0. Danbury over Darien by that same 2-0 score. And Greenwich beat Ridgefield 2-1 in boys soccer on Thursday.
Friday afternoon, we saw Wilton and St. Joe's square off, and the Warriors came out on top by a score of 2-1. West Hill was able to beat Fairfield Ward 3-0. Ridgefield over McMahon 3-2 in a game that really I don't think anyone expected the Senators to hang around for that long. Ridgefield was up early, and Brian McMahon did well to come back in that one. On Saturday, Greenwich shut out Ward by a score of 3-0. And then we had 2 games in action yesterday. Staples and Greenwich, undefeated Staples, mind you, playing to a 0-0 draw. That is a huge game for the Greenwich Cardinals to be able to steal a point from Staples there, Don.
Yeah, it's really something. Staples is in 3rd place now with a record of 4-1-1, 13 points in that Western Division. Greenwich, winless. Greenwich escapes with the draw. So just a good performance there, really rising to the occasion in a rivalry game.
Now we make our way, I had that backwards. That was undefeated Greenwich who had the draw. And that Greenwich team, they went into last night's game 7-0. Don, has there ever been a more quiet 7-0 team heading into a game against Staples?
Probably, but I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. That's certainly an impressive performance. Of course, yes, Greenwich undefeated. I actually saw the girl standings up. Sorry about that, guys. But impressive performance nonetheless by Staples.
And it was just, I was talking with Kevin Coleman about it last night before our broadcast. So much focus has been put on the Staples records, and they're playing very well this season. They've had a couple of key wins, key ties to keep themselves in the hunt for the FCIAC. But almost no one talking about how Greenwich started the year 7-0 and just going about their business so professionally.
Yeah, and it's kind of I guess that's a good thing if you want. You kind of you sort of like to fly under the radar a little bit. Greenwich, as you mentioned, 7-0-1 now, 22 points. 1 point ahead of Danbury. Danbury 7-0-0. So Greenwich Danbury with a game in hand, if you will. But certainly, I didn't expect Greenwich to be ahead of Danbury at this point. But but that's where they are, and they were playing very well.
They really are. We had a great one last night, though. We were at Kennedy Stadium in Bridgeport when the Norwalk Bears traveled to take on the Bridgeport Central Hilltoppers. It was fast-paced. It was an aggressive style of play from both sides. And Norwalk, led by Sebastian Echeverry's hat trick, was able to come out on top by a score of 4-2. Let's take a look at a couple highlights from last night's game.
Bridgeport Central High School as the HAN Network makes their first stop here on the home of the Hilltoppers. I'm Frank Granito. This one into the box. Echeverry, slow roller, goal! Nice touch on that shot. Right foot to the left corner. It is 1-0 in favor of Norwalk.
There he is.
Giving a run, Ruiz. Ruiz with the right foot. This one heading for the net. Goal!
Second time's a charm. Ruiz finding the back of the net.
As Gardner is staring this one down like he's going to take the run at it. Indeed he does. This one on cage, and it's in! Able to finish, and you can hear the fans. They like that one.
Come out and really give you a run for your money. That's a dangerous play here.
And Echeverry aiming for the empty net. He's able to finish. Might be the easiest goal he scores all year.
Silverman, Coach Silverman is beside himself on the sideline. Good effort by Gardner there. Keep that one in.
And indeed it is.
Nice finish by Muhaj.
Pressure not making life any easier right now for Central as they look to stay on the attack. Echeverry in all alone. Fakes to the right, makes the move, and he's able to finish. The young man's got himself a hat trick.
Oh, what a move. Echeverry.
Again, Norwalk coming out on top 4-2, but it was so much fun, Don, for the 3 soccer games that we've covered up to date this year. This was far and away my favorite. Both teams playing ultra aggressive. It was fast paced. They were taking shots on through balls. It was physical. It was great soccer from start to finish.
It really was, and as we said, because they didn't lie back and play not to lose or play for the draw. These two teams were going for it. I'm wondering, where has the Central team been? Who is this Central team playing that they're 1-6 on the air? I suppose I could look at the schedule, but a couple of mistakes either way, that game could have turned on it. And what a rocket on the free kick into the corner.
It was a great game. Central had to play with their backup goalie. Felipe Diaz suffered a meniscus injury. It was Edgar Martinez's first start. He had the one, we'll call it a poor play, where he turned the ball over.
We could call it that, yes.
Yes, to Sebastian Echeverri. But the last goal that Echeverri scores for the hat trick, and he is in all alone, I don't care who was in goal. They were going to look just as silly as Martinez did being left in the dust there.
Yeah, that was a Maradona-esque little footwork there. Very, very nice.
Let's take one more break here on Nutmeg Sports, but when Don and I get back, we're going to take a look at some of the volleyball scores from this past weekend and give you an update on cross country for both the girls and the boys right here on the HAN Network.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Chop off your knives to be sharpened. Grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Players have access to soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball and softball, field hockey, rugby, basketball, volleyball, and social game facilities. InSports has also launched an early childhood development program, a daycare and pre-K program all rolled into one. Don't miss out on the fun. Find out more at insportscenters.com or call 203-268-1214. Like and follow us on Facebook.
Washington Prime, now open on Main Street in Georgetown. Come enjoy our relaxed setting, excellent service, award-winning nightly happy hours, and feast on our creative new American cuisine. Connecticut Magazine's winner for Best Steak, Washington Prime of Georgetown.
The leaves are changing, water temps dropping, and the sun is setting a little earlier each day. But there's still a lot of great boating, fishing, and coast time left before we see the first snow. And above all, remember, it's always summer at the Dock Shop. With loads of new fishing tackle and accessories, clothing, jewelry, and home decor, the Dock Shop is just what you need when you start to feel that New England autumn chill. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
At the Ridgefield Suzuki School, we believe that every child can. Using the internationally recognized Suzuki method, children learn to play their instrument in an environment of encouragement, parental support, and community. The Suzuki approach seeks to develop the whole child, to help unfold his or her natural potential to learn. Private lessons and group classes are offered on violin, viola, cello, and piano for children ages 4 and up, and young children can enroll in their school's early childhood classes before beginning an instrument. The Ridgefield Suzuki School, nurturing a love of music in all children. Call us at 203-403-2667 or visit ridgefieldsuzukischool.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune into Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN Network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier Network, and we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in the studio. Don, as we take a look at some of the volleyball action from this past weekend, why don't you start it out for us here? Let's go back to Friday afternoon.
Okay, hang on one second here. Let me just get that in front of me. I have the scores here. We have Trumbull 3-1 over Ward, Ridgefield 3-1 over Staples, all 3-1 scores actually. St. Joe's 3-1 over Ludlow, Darien over New Canaan 3-0. Kitty Crosby there with 12 kills for the Cardinals. Stamford 3, Norwalk 0. Andrea O'Connor with 15 kills. Greenwich 3-0 over Wilton. Actually, those were all the Monday scores.
That was Monday action. Back on Friday, we had Danbury took down Norwalk 3-0 in their match. Greenwich shut out West Hill. So did Stamford over Staples. Stanford's Andrea O'Connor, 18 kills and 4 blocks. Jayla Wilson had 25 assists and 2 kills to go with that effort. Ward outlasts Trinity 3-2 in a 5-set thriller. McMahon over Norwalk 3-1. Darien over Ludlow in an FCAC championship rematch comes out on top by a score of 3-1. Caroline Matzloff, 12 kills and 1 ace. Sammy Huff, 15 kills, 1 block, 1 ace, 17 digs. But Don, we're going to be at Ludlow tomorrow. They've got Trumbull coming to town. Ludlow is 0-6 right now.
Yeah, 0-6, 0-5 in the FCAC. The struggles continue for Ludlow. Really inexplicable. I mean, always turnover. You lose a big crop of seniors that carried your team far in the previous year. You always wonder how it's going to turn out. I don't think anyone expected to see Ludlow 0-6 to start the season.
And I think the only thing that might be more surprising than Ludlow being 0-6, you've got McMahon leading the East Division. That includes Darien with 2 losses, Wilton 3-1, Ward 4-1. McMahon is undefeated. And we'll have McMahon on the network very soon, whether it's next week or the week after that. But what a great start for the Senators.
Yeah, as I mentioned a second ago, no one saw Ludlow starting the season 0-6. No one thought McMahon would start the season 5-0, 4-0 in the FCAC, sitting atop that Eastern Division, about a game ahead of Ward.
There are 2 teams undefeated in the West Division. That's Greenwich at 6-0, 5-0 in the conference. Ridgefield is 5-0, 4-0 in the conference. Danbury and Stanford both sitting at 4-1 in the FCAC. The West is very, very competitive at the top. It's Staples is struggling a little bit, West Hill and Central down there at the bottom, but it's very, very competitive in the FCAC right now, and it's a lot of teams that we're not used to saying are in the driver's seat this early.
Yeah, and it's been competitive. You still have the 3 undefeated teams, then Danbury, Stanford, Ward, and Wilton 1 loss. As these teams kind of get into the heart of their conference schedule and start playing each other, it creates a lot of fascinating matchups in the next couple of weeks.
Don, we're going to wrap this up right now. We'll get to cross country and swimming tomorrow, and we're joined by Dave Stewart. We've got Ludlow and Trumbull tomorrow in girls volleyball. What do the Falcons need to do to get a win on their home court?
Well, what they need to do, they need to, they really need. Their passing has been, has been an issue, and returning serve. Now Trumbull 3-2 in the FCAC. They're actually 5-2 overall. So the Eagles off to a very good start. The Falcons really need to just side out and just let their talent come through.
Don, you get tomorrow off, but we'll be joined with you again on Thursday. We're going to have Dave Rudin of the Rudin Report on with us, too. He's going to give us his thoughts on the 3 remaining undefeated teams in the FCAC, and we will preview all of our football games that we've got coming up this weekend. For Donald Eng, Eric Gentry, our director, I'm Frank Granito. We've got Coffee Break at 11 a.m. with Jake Splensky. Tomorrow's Wednesday. That means CT Pulse. And as always, we're back at 2 o'clock right here on the HAN Network.